Okay,
All right, we're up and running.
we're recording, so I will call the meeting to order. I'm Mark Kruchnit. I'm not sure if we have anybody besides the six of us. Is there anyone on that's just called in and not on video?
We do have, it looks like the applicant, two members of the public are here.
Hi, Nathan. Okay, so we just called the meeting to order. And the first order of business, I think we can, well, we'll just do the quick introductions because we always do. I already said who I am. Do the other members want to introduce themselves before we move on?
Mark Fritz, ADR member.
Laura Dewar, ADR member, Ross resident.
And Steven Sutro.
Great. And the first order of business is to approve the minutes from the February 23rd meeting. I read over them and they're fine. That was the singular pool project that we did. Did anyone else look over that and want to second it?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, now we have the open time for public comments. If anyone in the audience wants to speak about anything for up to 3 minutes, it's not on the agenda. Now would be the time. And since there are no takers on that, we can move straight on to the item number 4, which is the Fasano residence at 9 Skyland Way that we saw previously. Matthew, do you want to present the project?
Yes, thank you, Chair, ADR Group.
Oh, and sorry, Nathan, just to remind you, the way we do it is Matthew presents the project from the town point of view, and then you add anything you want to that, what he said, you or anyone on your team, if there happens to be someone else. At that point, we'll ask questions of you if we have any.
Yeah, great.
Right.
Thank you.
Sure. Sorry, go ahead, Matthew.
And thank you, Chair and ADR Group. And if I could have the ability to share my screen, I will go ahead and share the project plans. Great, thank you very much. So the item before you is the Fasano residence at 9 Skyland Way. This is a proposed amendment to a previously approved design review project. Tonight I'll present basically the plans for the previously approved project and the currently proposed project side by side. And I'll just briefly scan through those and then turn it back over to the ADR group for discussion. So on the left, we have the previously proposed plans, and on the right, we have the currently proposed plans. The existing residence is a 2-story residence, rectangular, shown here. The approved project involved a 2-story, 1,336 square foot addition in this location here. And the revised project includes that same addition, slightly increased in size, as well as a new infill addition at the over the entrance. And that would bring the total addition to 1,928 square feet. I would say just initially that the project is conforming to all zoning code standards, including setbacks, FAR, and coverage. And so this is just a design review question. So looking at site plans or floor plans, we see again the approved project involved an addition that measured 24 feet long in this direction and 28 feet wide in this direction. The proposed project today would increase that size by 1 foot in the long dimension to 25 feet and 2 feet in the wide direction to 30 feet. So this area here would increase by 1 foot and 2 feet in those dimensions. And then this would be the new proposed addition, which would be an entryway and dining room addition at the upper story and bedrooms at the lower level. Let's see, and then moving to the lower level, we can see that a previously proposed front balcony is no longer proposed. It's been omitted from the plans, so that projection is no longer there. And I will now move to the roof plan briefly. Shows that the original,
I'm sorry, can you go, Matthew, can you go back to that
yes,
previous screen? So in the previous one, there was not just the deck on the top of the screen, but also to the right of the screen, and that's been removed as well.
no, that deck is still existing. It's just not shown on the plans. So that deck is part of the plan.
Okay,
So that side deck here, this is an existing deck that would not be removed, and it's just not shown clearly in this. In fact, it is referenced as deck right here.
okay,
So
thank you, sorry.
no problem. Just again, the roof plans. Hipped roof proposed and approved, and today also a hipped roof with the new infill addition would be actually a gable roof. And in elevations, we see the existing and approved here, as well as existing and proposed here. In addition to the additional square footage proposed, there are changes to fenestration and facade as well. So I'll just point those out and note that there are different materials and different windows. And those are apparent in all the elevations. So now moving from the north elevation to the west elevation. Yes, actually this is, let's see. Yes, sorry about that. So I think these are both, they're labeled west and east, but these are the same elevations. So we can see that the changes involve primarily the facade and the windows, as well as the new infill addition would occur in this location. It's shown on this plan here. And then lastly, the south elevation, showing that the massing would essentially be the same from that perspective. And also we do see that the front balcony that was proposed on the previous plan no longer proposed at this time. And lastly, a section with the building height, maximum height line shown here and here, demonstrating that the existing approved and the currently proposed plan are both consistent with 30-foot height limit. So that ends my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions that you might have. And I believe the applicant, the Fassanos, are also available to discuss the project. Thank you. I will leave my screen up for now unless someone wants me to take the screen down.
Stephen or Mark, since you've both seen this project before, do you have any questions of either Matthew or the applicant?
No, does the applicant, do you want to make a presentation or tell us anything about the proposal?
Yeah, just two quick comments, just so that you guys understand the drive for some of these changes. Really, the first one was, just kind of considering the house, the lot, the size, et cetera, trying to establish a better entrance to the house than kind of what seems like a side door. And so that drove creating that entryway so that you just get a much sort of better feel entering and also viewing. So that was one. And then, just sort of a little bit of the size change on the addition. We actually swapped where bedrooms were. It just made more sense putting the kitchen at the other end. That's where the outside pool is, et cetera. So that was really what drove the changes.
Yeah, no questions on my side, Mark. The
Okay,
material, actually, just one question, Nathan. The materials that you proposed are the same materials as they were in the previous? Is that correct?
So I, first of all, so I dialed in, I must be on like my son's account. So that's why it's Nathan, but I'm actually Chris. That's
sorry,
that's
Chris.
okay.
My
No problem.
apologies.
I don't know why Zoom does that, but the materials, so you can see in the newly proposed, we've added some stone. I'm not sure if the way it's represented actually in this drawing is the accurate stone. But so that has changed a little bit. Again, trying to sort of upgrade the look of it versus the original design, I think still kind of had a little bit of a dated feel to it.
And the roofing material, it does look like a standing seam in the new design. I'm not sure I recall, I apologize, and it's too small right now, what the proposal was for the last time. I think it's comp shingles, right?
Yeah, it's comp shingles.
Okay. And you've moved to the standing seam?
Yeah,
Okay.
more modern.
Got it. Thank you. And I'm sorry, one last question, just because I'm on
Yeah.
that kick. I see the railing. I think the railings you're proposing in both schemes are the same, right? On that front walkway? Yeah,
Yes.
Okay. It's like either a steel bar or a cable.
Mm,
I can't remember. I
It's
see it
steel
down
bar.
there. The steel bar kind of design?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that clarification.
Dark painted.
Got it.
Laura, do you have any questions? Okay, that's fine. So there is no one else in the audience. Normally I would now open it up to the audience if they wanted to have any questions. But since there are no audience members, I'll now bring it back to the ADR for final comments. Mark and Stephen, since you've seen this before, as I have, and Laura has not, why don't you two go first in your comments?
Sure. Mark, do you want to go first or shall I?
You feel free to. Feel free.
Okay, I think that this is it works well. I don't have any criticism or if a little bit of constructive feedback would be to maybe try to organize the windows more consistently so that maybe the sills were more consistent, the divided lights were more consistent. The way that this is situated, it's not very publicly appreciable. And so I think it's just more of a stylistic choice about what you prefer on those kinds of things. The two large windows that are in the dining room and the entry, I think it is, that are at the gable end on page A2.2. They're not equal. I think they're centered in their respective rooms, but they're just off bilateral symmetry, like just slightly. And I want to like grab them and make them equal, kind of. That's my own neuroses.
Yeah.
But I think that the having a varied use of materials and everything is kind of earth colored and it's going to totally fit in well and be chill. And so I can unequivocally support the project. And I could find little things that I'd like to tweak in terms of the windows, but that's your own business, I feel like, so.
Yeah. I think those are fair comments. I think we kind of went through this similar and ultimately landed on, we needed the windows centered from within the room.
Mhm.
But I understand the comments.
Anything further, Stephen? You good?
No, I can wholeheartedly support the project.
Yeah, appreciate that. I think from a massing perspective, I don't have any issues with the increased size or the new addition at the front entry. I think the front entry is something we struggled a little bit with last time on how to make it prominent enough when you're coming up the side. That roof piece never really landed, I think. So I think you're improving that scenario. I don't have any particular issue with the roofing material or the sort of the standing seam versus a comp shingle. I think it upgrades it a little bit. I concur with Stephen. I'm probably a little stronger on the fenestration. I think there's more that can be done to make pretty much all the facades tie together better. I think it looks, because you have the variety of window types and sill heights, widths, excuse me. Didn't hit the mute button. I think you're losing some some of the synergy around the house. It just doesn't seem to tie it together. It seems much more disparate. So for example, on that lower right elevation that we're looking at and then proposed plan, the upper level and the lower level, again, I appreciate Stephen's point about it. It's not a highly public, facade. This isn't something that's sitting on Sir Francis Drake or let's say on Shady Lane or something like that. But it does seem pretty disjointed. The idea that you that the upper level, what's going on up top doesn't seem like it is even speaking to the stuff below. So, I would say it more than bothers me. I think there can be some improvements there. Recognizing that you are working, as any plan is working with some limitations on fenestration, but you're essentially doing a lot of work on this house. So moving windows around a foot here or vertically shouldn't be the limitation. So I think what you see on the bottom left in the proposed plan before, you'd worked on that facade where the bump out comes out, and you've got that really nice and tight with the balcony and the upper and lower level windows. I think you lose that on this new proposed plan, and I do think there's a large opportunity, I'll say, to rectify that. And I would say even on the facade that you drive up to, if Matthew, if you could switch to the east facade, I think, or west facade, I can't recall which one. Thank you very much. That's a fairly visible facade as you approach the building because that's the entranceway. I think, you tried on the previous go around to do a lot of work on that facade. And I think just maybe a little more love can be shown to that, maybe to that gabled end. I'm not telling you what it needs to be, but I think there could be something that that enhances that view. Maybe lastly, my comment would be, I'm sorry.
Do you have any specific suggestions, Mark, or are you just going to make more problems than solutions here on this facade?
Well, I don't. It's a fair point, Stephen. I don't want to leave them with no direction, but I think that the rhythm of the windows around that corner and into the rest of the building needs to be synthesized, right? So I don't know that width and that head height. I don't know if it's starting to speak as you round the corner to the windows on what I would characterize sort of the front facade, right? They're still a little bit different, right? You've got different mullion patterns on that garage elevation than you do on this elevation off to that right side. So
Yep, right.
if nothing else, just like, let's tie that together. Let's pull some semblance of rhythm through the proportions of the windows and whether they've got mullions or no mullions, I think would help. I think the ones at the entrance of the dining room that Stephen previously pointed out are probably overscaled for that portion of the elevation. Maybe I also agree they should be similar, if not exactly the same size, but they might want it. The one on the left seems to be a bit large for the facade that it's in. The one on the right seems to have a little bit better proportion. I would say if we stick with this elevation a little bit, while I appreciate the stone, I'm struggling a little bit with the stone going up into the gable. It's not something we see very often because what you see with stone is either you're highlighting a mass that you want to bring to someone's attention. And stone generally reads as a heavy material, right? That you use it as a base, a foundation, a plinth, something along those lines. So having it go up to that gable visually to me is just maybe unnecessary, maybe an unusual choice, I guess I would say, where my eye wants to see the stone sort of holding up that piece, right? Working along the base of the building.
Is that roof form a gable or a hip there? It must be a gable.
That's a gable.
In the roof plan, it looked like a hip to me. Maybe I'm wrong.
So the where the entrance sort of dining
yeah,
room
it's a gable. Yeah, it's
is a gable. The other one is a hip to conform to the
Height. Yeah.
height, which quite honestly, in an ideal world, we'd have them both gabled, but to conform, we've put the one as a hip.
And honestly, I think that's okay. I agree with you, Chris, that I would probably have suggested that, but seeing your section, you can't do that. Or, it isn't going to be enough of a benefit to make the variance worth your while, in my opinion. But again, I think that stone treatment is, it struggles a little bit the way it's broken up. That window, I think I'm reading the plans correctly, that the facade with the large windows there, lower right facade, and it's coplanar that whole way, except for the stair bump out. So you've got this an unusual use of the stone above where it's not below. I'm assuming the below is stucco. So those are just some, I think there's a little more tweaking on the materials in that area of the home that can, I don't know, maybe make more sense out of it. Because as you turn the corner, even on the steps, as you're going up, you're thinking about stone on the right wall, but it doesn't wrap around to create the stair as a mass. It just sort of turns to stucco on that other elevation. And that, to me, I think there's a general sense that you want to have that mass be articulated in the same material. I'm going on and on here. I apologize. So I think my main comments are, I think the windows need to be, as Stephen said, I concur, sort of tightened up some, even this left window, I think it's the bath in the upper left of that east elevation, right? That sort of clear story window doesn't really even line up with the window on the lower level. And it could, it just doesn't. And those are the types of things I think which will pull this building together a little more, because right now it's reading as a whole bunch of different additions with different articulations in the fenestration and the materials. And I think it could use some help there.
I think it's
I'll
fair.
stop talking and I'll let Mark and Laura either add additional comments. And again, I think the massing is spot on. I think I think it's a good move. I like the entrance as it is now, actually, as you're proposing. I think it's a good move. So I fully support that. I think it's just these, tying the building together a little more.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark. So Chris and Gina, first of all, sorry for calling you Nathan before. It was just the fact that it was written underneath your.
Yeah, no problem. No
but
problem.
it's hard to call someone a name when it's written in front of you. Something else. I do think what Stephen and Mark's, first of all, as far as the massing of the project, it seems fine to me to build your house the way you're proposing it. But I do think that from your backyard, when you're on that lower lawn area that I've walked through, that you will appreciate it more, and maybe someday some buyer will appreciate it more if you're ever selling it. If you do their suggestions in tightening up the windows and maybe trying to tie together the outside of the house, the materials a little better, and not having the rock go up into the gable, not having the stone, go up into the gable will actually save money. So it's more cost efficient anyway. And it will look unusual from down below when you have a singular facade and you see stucco and then turning into stone, because usually, and we have stone around the house here, but it's always lower and there's usually something above it. And if there's not something above it, there's definitely not a separate material below it. Like you never have anything below the rock, below the stone. So I do think you might want to revisit that, just tightening up the windows a little bit and changing some of the exterior surface materials in the proportions they're used, just to make it feel tighter, I guess, as Stephen and Mark have said. But as far as the actual project and your rooms and the size, I think all that is fine.
Okay. I think all those comments are fair, to make it a little bit more cohesive, clean it up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Laura?
I agree with a lot of the comments that have already been talked through. I think the the massing, the increased size seems appropriate to the site. It's within the FAR and not within the setbacks. So that all makes sense. I like the change of material of the roof to the standing seam. And I also agree with what we were just talking about with the stone, the stucco below the stone. So maybe consider running that stucco all the way down to the, running the stone all the way down to the ground there. I don't really think I have any other comments, but I could support the project.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Right, so Patrick and Matthew, it seemed like we all basically said the same thing. Do you need me to sum it up, or are you good with basically what Stephen and Mark said and we followed on?
I think I've got the comments. I think they're pretty consistent, and yes, I've got them.
Okay, great. Well, so we would unanimously recommend it for approval to the town council, but we do think that the exterior surfaces and windows should be adjusted slightly.
And I would just mention that this project is actually subject to administrative approval of an amendment to the previous design review, because with a positive ADR group recommendation, staff can make the determination that this project is generally consistent with the previous project approved at the town council. So with carrying the ADR group's comments and recommendations forward into further discussions with the applicant, staff will act appropriately and in that manner.
Great.
And I would just offer, because we've done this before, Matthew and Chris, if you want to share some designs or tweaks or something to get any feedback, I'm sure some members of the ADR would be happy to, just take another look. Just sometimes we've done that off cycle.
Sure. Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate all the comments.
Thank you. Okay, great. On to the next item. We have no conceptual advisory design review. Matthew and Patrick, are there any staff communications other than the date and time of the next meeting?
I'll just let the group know we got some upcoming major projects for the town. As we discussed at the last council meeting, we received direction from the council to move forward with a plan to redevelop the town hall complex with the public safety building. That new development would include administrative offices, police, and paramedics, but we would not have a fire station in Ross. So that would not be a facility that's reconstructed. We remain part of the Ross Valley Fire Department, but the actual fire facility would not be part of that reconstruction. We also discussed the EIR that's been released for public comment for the Corte Madera Creek flood control project. And part of that includes a redesign of Frederick Allen Park, which is the park kind of behind the commercial district along Ross Common. And that would, instead of being a concrete channel, it would make it a more accessible creek. But the flip side of that is that it would include removal of several of those mature trees in that area. So we're waiting to see what if that's the project that the Board of Supervisors chooses, or if they go with an alternative. A lot of the flood control you can get without actually making any changes to the park. So there are a couple different project alternatives that will be looked at, and it will be coming to us for design review since it's our park. And then lastly, we've entered into a contract with Gates and Associates for a revisioning of Ross Common. So looking at the landscaping, looking at the amenities and the circulation and how it ties in with the post office and the commercial district. So that's a project that we'll be taking on pretty rapidly. So again, we'll be involving the ADR group in those conversations as well. And that's all I have to report at this time.
Thanks, Patrick.
That's excellent. Those are all really good projects for the town. Excellent. I think just one comment I'll ask Patrick, that the number of trees that I understand that could be eliminated are in over 100. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, it's basically removing all the trees
Yeah.
regrading the whole area and then planting new trees. And the EIR says that the vegetation should return to the pre-project state in about 10 years. You know, that's up for debate. It could be as many as 20 years for some parts of the area. So it's a major thing for the town to consider moving forward.
Has an architect been selected for the town hall complex or the municipal?
No, we just determined the scope of the project now. So the next step will be
An RFP.
picking a group to do the master plan, and they may do the master plan as well as construction. That's something that we'll have to make a determination on.
You can do that, Stephen?
It's not what we do, but it sounds fun. I'm curious. Let's find someone good to do it.
What are the chances it comes back looking in the same sort of style that our current town hall is in?
Right.
Well, I do want to point out that the council chamber building, that's not being touched.
Yeah.
Possibly moved, but we're keeping that building.
Yeah, I
Oh, I
understand.
didn't know that. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. It was kind of like the initial idea was a courtyard kind of with that as one corner or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the circulation needs to be improved. Right now, we have emergency vehicles using the same driveway as the public as well as town staff.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's no other fire department I can think of that the fire trucks actually park in the back parking lot.
Yeah.
And then have to, drive through a parking lot and then a one-lane driveway without any signalized control to get out onto the artery. So.
All right. Well, thank you. I guess unless anyone has anything else, I can move to adjourn.
Great. Second.
Right. And good luck, Stephen, with the recuperating.